evening. So the topic we have on this evening parenting webcast is nurturing for greatness. Nurturing for greatness. That is the topic that we have today, nurturing for greatness. So before we move ahead, I really want us to really know what nurturing is all about, because the topic is just a topic, but there are two words there fused together. There is nurturing and there is greatness. Thank you, Mrs. Fumilayo Ashaolu. Thank you. We appreciate you. You sent me a DM a couple of weeks ago, but no response. I'm so sorry about this. After now, I will look into it. I'm so sorry that I've not responded to the DM you sent to me, but I'm not sure that I received or I got anything. Please quickly resend it again. So when we're talking about nurturing for greatness, we're talking about two words fused together here. The first word is nurturing. The first word is nurturing. And what is nurturing? We define nurturing as a process of building, caring, and protecting something or someone while that thing or that person is growing up. So that is nurturing. Nurturing is a process of building, caring, and protecting someone or something while that thing or someone is still in the process of what? Of growing. Why nurturing? Because when you have something, you got that thing in your space. You have it in your care, like we have our children in our care. Whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, every child under you have the responsibility to look after the child. You have the responsibility to build the child, to care for the child, and to protect the child, because he or she is still undergoing the process of growth under you. So that is why the word nurturing comes in. So you can see, as teachers and parents, we have a whole lot on our hands. We have a whole lot nurturing, because there are key words in the word nurturing: build, care, and protect. So when we talk about greatness, we're talking about giving above average value for something or someone. Giving above average value for something or someone. So, nurturing for greatness, we are talking about once we have built our children, once we have cared for them, and once we have protected them, the goal that we are looking at, that we are aiming at, is greatness. Above average. When you look at what is happening in the world of today, there is no someone that is below average. Nobody that is below, or the person is average, can make any remarkable mark in the life of today. A lot of things are coming up by the day. People come up with many innovations, inventions. So we can't afford to raise our children below average. You can't even afford to raise them on the average level. We have to shoot higher. And that is why nurturing for greatness comes in. So when we're talking about nurturing for greatness, there are 5 stages involved in this area. 5 stages involved in nurturing for greatness. Why these 5 stages? Because the whole world is earnestly waiting for the manifestation of the greatness of our children. The purpose why God has given us the responsibility to nurture those children for greatness is such that they can replicate God on earth, so that they can be godly. Being godly is being God incarnate. Being godly is for us to have the capability, to have the capacity, to have the in-depth knowledge, to have the wherewithal to replicate what God is doing on this earth, on the surface of the earth. And how is that going to be possible? Because once we have nurtured them for this greatness, the wisdom of God will rest upon them so that they can be able to replicate everything. So God is not going to come down to do all these things. He's going to inspire our children today. He's going to inspire them to do great stuff for us in the next 20, 30, 40 years ago. When I have the opportunity to hold a session like this, I don't miss any word in trying to recollect what happened in our nation, Nigeria, about 30, 40 years ago, even 50 years ago. I don't really miss any word because a lot of things, a lot of expectation were there those decades ago. By this time, people will have expected Nigeria will have, the children that were raised 40, 30 years ago, people expected that by now, a lot of innovations in sciences, in politics, in governance, in banking and finance, in religion, in all spheres of influence, that a lot of inventions, a lot of innovations will have taken place by now. But alas, few or little or nothing have actually taken place in the Nigeria of today. So I wouldn't say our parents have failed in this regard. They've not failed totally. But what we can do is to build on the foundation that our parents have raised us. The foundation they've set for us. The same thing goes to schools. The schools haven't really failed, but the schools of today have the responsibility to build, to improve on the foundation that the schools of yesteryears have built for children of yesteryears. So that is why this topic is coming up, the topic of nurturing for greatness. So I'm going to be talking about these stages involved. I'm going to be talking about the stages involved so that in the next 20, in the next 30 years, when we are still very much alive and kicking, we will look back and see the greatness that our children are doing. We will look back and see that virtually almost everything that we import today, we can actually build them here in Nigeria. We will be so great that our children that are designed for administration, that are designed for politics, that are designed for governance, they will be doing exploitedly well before us, and not the kind of present crops of leadership that we have in our polity. No, we want the stream whereby in the next 20 years, our children will do great stuff for us. So that is why we are having this step. So I just want to encourage everybody to follow these steps. Let us follow these steps, and we will see how they are so invaluable to the way we raise greatness, we nurture greatness in the life of our children. So the first point is preparation stage. The first stage in nurturing for greatness is preparation stage. When we say preparation stage, we're talking about catching them young. Permit me to use that word. We use it often. We really want to catch them young. Catching them young, let me just explain this. We're talking about from age 0, from the first day, we realize that a child is formed in the womb. From that very first day, nurturing has started. Nurturing has started. Nurturing does not start when the child is 1 day old. Nurturing does not start when the child is 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Because I've been to some sessions where people asked me, when do you think we can begin to impact values in the life of our children? Is it some people even go further to ask, do we start from age 7? Do we start from age 12? We start, and I always tell them that we start from age 0. Age 0. That is when we're going to be giving them age-appropriate value infusion into their life. Age-appropriate value infusion. So what are we going to be doing at this early stage of age 0 to like age 3? We're going to nurture them heart to heart, with tender heart. Then we're going to ready to receive so that these children will be ready to receive the value that is being practiced by the system. That is being practiced by the value system that is being practiced in the family. So the reason why I said from age 0 is this: before the copulation even started at all, before the two parents, the husband and wife, start, the marriage at all, before the husband brings the woman into the house at all, there must be a kind of value system that the husband has. So before the woman comes in at all, at the same time, there has to be a kind of value system. So at the point of being together, of bringing themselves together as husband and wives, they weigh their value system and they try to strike the balance. Meaning that when the children begin to come into that house, they begin to see the value system that their parents have actually highlighted, value system the parents actually have for them. So this is the basis by which the children that we want to raise would this is the basis, the basis we're going to judge them. This is the basis they're going to be nurtured. This is the basis they're going to be assessed. Do we understand? So if that is why that stage is called preparation stage, preparatory stage, so that by the time those children begin to come in now, you will know. It's just like when you like a hot knife on a butter, it just goes in straight. No energy is exerted, no pressure, nothing, because there is a basis, there is a foundation. And what that means is, imagine a house. A house does not just become a building on its own. A foundation is first laid, then the blocks begin to set. Then we begin to set the blocks upon it. That's where we see the beautiful edifice that we are so proud of. The same way, if the foundation is destroyed, there is no way anything. There is no way we can actually achieve any greatness in the life of any child that is being under us. As schools, the foundation has to be there. The preparation has to be there. As parents, the preparation has to be there. Then the next stage is the planting stage. The planting stage. What are we planting? We want to plant the seed that is inside of our children into the value system. We want to bury that seed into the value system that we have in our house. Before we want to do that in our family, because you do that, these are the things you need to know about the seed. Look at this example. Let me start an example where, like a farmer, when a farmer is preparing for a planting season, he clears the ground. Because of the mechanized farming that we do now, they test the soil, they test everything about it. The geologists, at times they will come in. There's some other soil specialists. They will come in just to see whether the particular, haven't tested that. At the same time, the seeds as well are going to be tested, whether they can match that ground. Because when we plant any seed that does not match, that the nutrients of the soil is not going to be okay for those seeds to germinate into greatness, those seeds will just die a natural death. So what do we do in this regard? This is the process. This is an area where, as parents and as teachers, we are going to study the child very well. Who is that child under our care? Who is that child under our care? Without us knowing the makeup of that child, it's going to be difficult for us to bring anything good, any greatness from that child. Without us knowing the child very well. Take, for instance, there are a lot of things that the child will know. About the child that we know. Excuse me. There are a lot of things that we know. And there are some other things that we won't know. And that one is called hidden. That's when we apply the concept that is called hidden curriculum. That is this thing that we were taught sometimes ago, tabula rasa, that the mind of a child is empty, that it depends on what parents and teachers write there, that the child will bring out. It is not totally true. No child comes to this world empty-minded. No. no child comes to the world empty-minded. Fine, there are some other things that through re-engineering of our status, of our knowledge in child care, in child development, knowledge in education, that we need to bring them out, and that is where the hidden curriculum comes in, because it's going to be pretty difficult for us. A child that we don't understand will not be able to comprehend that child, and a child that we've not been able to that we haven't comprehended, it's going to be difficult for us to manage the child. And when we are unable to manage any child, it's going to be difficult for us to maximize the potential of that child into greatness. So the preparatory stage, clearing the ground, infuse the value with the parents, husband and the wife. They prepare the house, they prepare their home for values to come in. They exhibit that value, that by the time the child comes in as well, the child just goes into that value. The child, that's why I'm of the opinion that we infuse value, and at the same time, nobody teaches value. Value is caught, or values are caught. When a child meets value in the house, he or she sees the relationship between the husband and wife. When schools have value, the children that they have, the students, the pupils that they have, they know what is in the school already. So they just flow into it. They catch the values that are being practiced by that school. So the second one is when we know the child inside out. When we know the child inside out, in knowing the child, that means that we know the relational and behavioral tendencies of those children. So it makes the job of nurturing easier. So the next step, which is the third stage, and that is watering stage or watering stage. So when a farmer wakes up in the morning after he has planted, what does he do? He goes to water the plants. In mechanized farming, they have a kind of machine that can cover, several acres within minutes. So the same way, we are going to be watering the children under us. How do we water, or what does watering represent in nurturing our children for greatness? The nurturing represents the kind of value system that we already have that are existing in our house. Then what is really, or the purposes of this value system, so that we can have emotionally stable adults, so that we can have intellectually sound adults, and so that we can have spiritually developed adults. These three aspects are so important in the life of our children. Take, for instance, a lot of adults that we have today, they are emotionally brittle adults. They are sound. Some of them are sound, intellectually sound. But, when we talk about the emotions, they're just emotionally brittle adults. They can't hold their own. They can't do some stuff on their own. They can't really look inward. The life skills are not there. In case of any misunderstanding within friends, misunderstanding in the family, the next thing they do, they just, at times, they want to chicken out. And that's why you see the reason, and one of the reasons why marriage failures, is so rampant nowadays. We just see some people, they get married, the next thing, 2-3 years down the line, they opt out. And when you ask them, I can't just bear the kind of torture she's giving me or is giving me. Those are the consequences of emotionally brittle adults. Those are the consequences. And if we are not, if we don't really want all those things to subsist going further, that is the reason why we need to infuse the values that we really have in our family. What is the belief of our family system to the value of truth? Excuse me. What is our belief in the value of truth? What is our belief in the value of justice? What is our belief in the value of judgment? What is our belief in the value of success? What do we know success is? What do we know success is? Let me tell you this. The greatest things, the greatest invaluable asset that we can bequeath to our children is value system that we so practice in our house. So the success of wealth, the success of position, the success of power, the success of the material success, name them, they are just additional. They are just additional, because I have seen in my lifetime, in little time that I've spent on this earth, I have seen some people that are exceptionally brilliant, but value system is zero. I have seen some people in power, value system is zero. I have seen some people with much affluence. I've seen some people that control so much influence in the world, but check out the value system is zero. So that is why I don't really go out there to preach about material success as one of the benefits of good parenting, effective parenting. No, those are just addition to it, because a child that you bequeath so much wealth onto, if that child doesn't have the right value, you will just squander it within a twinkle of an eye. So that's why I'm of the opinion that the greatest invaluable asset we can bequeath to our children is right value system. So the fourth one is pruning. Look at a farmer. When a farmer haven't planted, watered, he does all this all the time. Do you understand? He doesn't allow anything, he doesn't allow it to go dry. If any birds wants to perch on it, he chases them away, everything. But there are some other things that he needs to do so that the plant will come out greatness. So that in the case, in the last stage of harvesting, there's going to be a kind of what we call a bountiful harvest at the end of it all. So there are some weeds that grow around the child. There are some, because no matter how solid values that we have in our house, no child is susceptible to the influence of the larger society. We can't continue to raise, our children can never grow under us completely from age 0 to 18 under us. They can't completely grow under our roof. They will go out to mix with their friends. They will go to schools. They will go to another schools. Even as school owners, the students that we have, they will go to other schools. Even within the environment where the school is located, there are some influences around that environment that are not in agreement with the kind of values that the school is raising the children, is nurturing the children with, that the parents are nurturing the children with. In as much those things are always there. So we introduce what I call a pruning system. That pruning system has to do with what? Has to do with reward and consequences system. The reward system and consequences system. The reward system for any one of them that is really exhibiting, do you understand, that is really exhibiting the right values that we have done. So that is what a farmer does. A farmer goes to farm, any weed that he sees around the plants, and he or she knows that these things are not going to allow the plants to grow. If he allows them to be there, the plants will either grow, become stunted. That's why at times when we go there, you see some things, pests have eaten them, birds have perched on them. Then a lot of things, we have rodents that will always do that. Even parasites, those are weeds. So what does the farmer do? The farmer goes there and weed those unwanted plants around the planting, around the plant. He weeds them out so that the plant can can easily grow up very well. Even among the plant itself, there are some stalk, there are some branches that has to be removed. If those branches are not removed, what will happen? It will not allow the plant, what you have planted, to generate or to come up with more fruits. Maybe that plant has been destined to have about 10 fruits, 5 or 15 or 20. But those branches are just there, just to cause a kind of distraction. What does the farmer do? The farmer remove them, cut it out, so that those ones can actually be, some of us, we did little agriculture when we were growing up. Even in our house, some of us still have the kind of flowers that we plant. We try to do all those things. So you remove those ones that are not growing very well, so that they will not affect the ones that are growing very, very well. So why do we do this? We do it so that a message of greatness can effectively achieved at the end of it all. So what do we do when a child does something that is against the value in the house? You allow the child to face the consequences of that action, so that the greatness that we are aspiring can be achieved. And when a child does well, we offer what is called reward system. During this period, a lot of things will have to take place. Pain will be introduced. When I say pain, I'm not talking about bodily pain. I'm not talking about hitting the child. That's what I'm talking about. But the pain of the consequences. When you tell them that this is the consequence, or are the consequences of disobedience, of what you're not going to, of going against the value system in this house, it's going to be painful to them. This as well is what I call again disturbance stage. It's going to disturb their peace. Imagine when you introduce a consequence to them. That if you do this, you are not going to get this. You're not going to get this. You're not going to get that. I'm not going to do this for you. Then I'm going to deduct this from your money. From maybe there's a reward system that when they do something right, maybe so amount at the end of the month, or at the end of the week. And once this thing is noted, rapidly, more than 3 or 4 times in your action during the day or during the week, so money is going to be deducted. It's going to be painful, and it's going to disturb their peace. They're not going to like it. Fine, they're not going to like it, but we have our goal. The goal is greatness. So the same way a farmer would do, if it will only remain, maybe one stock you only bring up, maybe like 2, 3, it's better that you get 2, 3 seeds out of that particular plant than allow those branches that are not fruitful for them to kill the plant itself. So the final stage, which is the stage of harvest. The stage of harvest. This is when schools have their certificate. They say there is no certificate in parenting. There is. But there are stages of certificate. The first certificate any parent, any school will get, any parent will get, is when that child is 18. At that 18 years of age, that child is expected to leave the home for a higher institution, or a higher study, or to even leave a home, maybe for what we call gap year, to work somewhere. Do you understand? So by the time they begin to exhibit, what they begin to exhibit after that age, after 18, is what we call harvest. The same way, when a farmer had spent so much year preparing the ground, tilling the ground, apply what is this now? Fertilizer, apply manure, apply everything, just to make sure that it reaps bountifully. At the end of the year, it could take 1 year. Some plantation could take about 2, 3, 4, even 5 years, depending on the kind of what we planted and how we really want to harvest. Having spent so much here, the joy of any farmer is to harvest bountifully. The same way, the joy of every parent is to harvest bountifully. What are we harvesting bountifully in the life of our children when they are 18? We are harvesting good value. We are harvesting justice. We are harvesting truth. We are harvesting good educational qualification. We are harvesting good representation. We are harvesting success in terms of innovation, in terms of invention, in terms of good leadership, in terms of name it. Those are the things we are harvesting. But guess what? If we neglected what is needful, as parents, as schools, if we neglected what is needful, whatever we sowed, we will reap. Whatever we sow at that particular stage, we will reap. If a school does not have what is called value system, the school will only be running from pillar to post. The school will only be trained with taming the children and not training them. You know, there's a difference between training and taming. When you reduce the exposure of our children to certain level, when you reduce their intact, I mean, when you reduce them from not doing something, when you you know what it's called, like, it's like, you know, they say that cut them into pieces, you know, cut them into sizes. You know, when you try to cut them, you're trying to preventing them from doing some things right. I mean, some what they're doing something wrong, and you don't want them to go doing to progress in error in doing that. You're trying to cut them into sizes. You know, we say that thing a lot. We're actually taming them. We are not training them, because training them when they're doing that thing that is wrong, training them is us telling them to do it right, and by giving them the life skill, telling them this is how you need to do it, and that is where pruning will now come in, where we're going to introduce what I call consequences and reward system for a job done, and consequences for a job done not too really well, or to the value system that we operate in the family. So what we operate in the family will determine the kind of harvest that parents and school will always have at the end of it all. We're talking about these 5 stages now. So that's why when I advise parents now, I think I advise parents to spend more time at the preparatory stage before husband and wife comes together. Before they come together that they want to form a family, what value systems do they think they really want to raise their children with? It is that value system that the children will come in. When children come in, we need to do one thing again, to know the child very well. A child that we don't know very well, greatness can never come out of that child. For us to know a child very well, I mean, for us to bring out the greatness in the life of any child, we must be able to know the child inside out. The same way a farmer will know the seed and the soil inside out before he goes planting. Then after that, the next thing is we begin to water the plants. Watering the plants is infusing the value system in the life of those children. This value system, like I did say, nobody teaches value system to any child. No teacher, no school does that. The only thing that we do is we exhibit that value, and it is infused into their life by them catching it. Values are caught, value is not taught. Then after that, the next thing that we do is pruning. You prune, and that's where you apply the reward and consequences system. During the process, the stage of pruning, it is not a palatable stage for parents, neither is it a palatable stage for children as well. This is when we're going to be telling ourselves the truth. A lot of things, a lot of hard decision has to be taken against any erring child. And that's where you allow them to face the consequences are even more painful than bodily pain. We don't really know that, but they are really more painful than bodily pain. So we allow them to go through that consequences, and that is pruning because of what? The last thing that we are aiming at. What is that? And that is what? Harvest. We are aiming at greater harvest. That is when the greatness can be said to have emanated from the life of our children. So at this point, I want to take some of our questions, and I need contributions about what we have discussed so far. Let's get engaged. I want to listen to questions, and I want to listen to contributions. I want to listen to us talk. contributions. Thank you, sir. Mr. Rotimi Itayo. I appreciate you as well. Thank you. So I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody that has shown up this evening. The session is still ongoing. This is CK International School. We're going to be giving you various sessions. You know, we're going to cover many topics that are affecting the life and greatness of our children. This is what we need to do. We need to do this just for the sake of tomorrow. We don't want to raise any emotionally brittled adult that will not be able to hold his own or to hold our own in the nearest future. We want to raise innovations out of our children. We want to raise good leaders out of them. We want to raise some leaders that will infuse value in the life of the people they lead. So we want to raise adults, you know, that will go into different spheres of influence and make remarkable mark in those places. So that is what we want to do, and that is one of the reasons why we're having this session this night. Tomorrow comes, we're going to have another robust session, and I want everybody that has shown up here today to meet us tomorrow as well. So thank you once again. On behalf of CK International School, we want to thank you all for being part of today's session. And the topic is, don't forget, the topic is nurturing for greatness. The session is still going to be on. The video is going to be on. We can still go back and see and watch the video to refresh our memory about what we have learned today. It's a privilege for us to host you this night, and I'm glad that I took this session. God bless you. Thank you.